You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Innovation Fuel, the podcast that brings you fantastic stories from entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. I am Dave and Gelareh.
And I am Gelareh Farhadian. We are educators, entrepreneurs, and your hosts. Innovation Fuel is our weekly business podcast brought to you by University Canada West. Each week, we explore diverse business models, entrepreneur journeys, experts' insight, and managerial challenges, and how companies stay agile and innovative during COVID-19. Check out our episodes at www.ucanwest.ca/innovationfuel. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Gelareh. Great to see you and hear you again.
Yes. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm always doing well. I'm kind of getting tired of being at home, so I think it's time for us to move back to some kind of normality. It seems like it's coming that way, but time will tell.
Because you have appointment for your vaccine. I haven't received it yet. That's why you have a higher hopes. When you get vaccinated, I think that you said that let's go for a party, and I said like, hey, I'm not vaccinated yet. Yeah, I think that was it.
Well, Gelareh, I think, one of the things that I think, we're talking about these situations, but businesses are struggling with these situations. They're in COVID times. They've gone through these tumultuous times. How are they surviving? What's out there to support them?
I have a question first. What is the status of the BC businesses, small businesses? How many of them are struggling? How many of them are thriving? And we know that the e-commerce one is thriving. A lot of companies that they do the e-commerce, they are not in a bad shape. They are actually in a very, very good shape. Some companies, when we have an interview in the Innovation podcast, they say that actually they're accelerating, they're growing faster during the COVID. But some businesses are really, really struggling. So I think that if we go to bank and ask the questions about, okay, how's the BC businesses is working during the pandemic, they can answer us. What do you think?
Well, I think you might be right, because as you said before, digital transformation, those businesses that are going into the digital world or in the digital world are accelerating because, that is it. But yeah, there is the other ones. There's the hospitality industry. There's the restaurants. These ones are just so how are they bridging these times? Who's helping them? And you said, I think the question is that these the financial institutions, the banks supporting them through these times. And I think that's the question that we need to get to the bottom of. What do you think?
I think that is a great one to start. So let's bring Curtis Campbell. So welcome, Curtis Campbell, to another episode of Innovation Fuel. Welcome, Curtis.
Yes, welcome, Curtis. Welcome to Innovation Fuel. We're so happy to have you here. Curtis is with us from RBC. Very exciting to learn more about the world of RBC and learn about Curtis. But before we go to the RBC piece, we need to learn more about you, Curtis. Tell us a little bit about you. Give us a little backstory on you.
Thanks so much, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here as part of Innovation Fuel. And thanks for the invite. 25. I'm hitting 25 years with Royal Bank this year, which it seems like a miracle to me. When I first joined the bank, I thought if I made it past 5 years, that would be astounding. But it's been a good organization and provided good career progression for me. So no, it's been good. And of that 25 years, I've spent about 20 of those years as a commercial banker. So working with businesses, large, small, government entities, that sort of thing. And so, got deep and lengthy experience in working in the Canadian business marketplace. Right now, I'm Vice President of Business Markets for the BC region. So I lead our small business line of business across the province. So I and my, call it 120, 130-ish advisors and managers manage about 18,000 small business clients across the province. And as you can imagine, they come in every form and fashion and industry, and lots of entrepreneurs, and it's very exciting. And this year's certainly been a bit of a challenge, but entrepreneurs are very resourceful, very enthusiastic. So they're a great group to work with. So it's been a great year.
So Curtis, can you give us some numbers about how many small businesses we have over BC, or how they are doing before COVID, during COVID? Is there any things that we can learn from you about the statistic part of it?
Yeah, for sure. And I get that question a lot. There's, especially in this last year, there's been a lot of ink spilled, right, around the plight of small businesses. It's no surprise to anybody that the pandemic has greatly affected our small business clients and commercial clients as well. And our commercial clients, our commercial businesses certainly employ a lot of folks in the Canadian marketplace. So it's important to pay attention to health of business. Health of business is really the health of the economy and society in general. So there's lots of statistics and studies and surveys that have been done over the last year. A lot of prognosticators have predicted, very pessimistic views, and recently some that are very optimistic. So, as I kind of review my experience and that of my team over the last year or so, it's been tough, right? We've had some very difficult and trying conversations in listening to our clients and their distress and their uncertainty and anxiety. And certainly there's been a lot of businesses that have really had to reflect hard on the core of their business and try to understand how do they best position their business for success given the set of circumstances that we have right now. And so there's been a lot of success stories, and those are very clear out in the media, whether it's social media or traditional, about businesses that have been able to find, the opportunity to pivot and reposition their business to take advantage of what we have to deal with today. So there are green shoots out there in amongst the mess that the pandemic, quite frankly, has created with what we had been used to in terms of economic rhythms. But what I would say is, as we talk with our clients, and as I mentioned earlier on, we manage about 18,000 business clients across the province, and we called every single one of them multiple times. And beginning with how are you doing, right? And then, evolving that conversation more into how can we support, how can we help, and how can we advise? And so we had some great conversations, and very few clients were to the point of, proverbially throwing in the keys and saying, we're finished. More of the conversation was around, we're distressed, we're challenged, we're not sure where this is going, but we're going to survive. We're going to find a way. And hey, RBC advisor, how can you help? How can you support us in our journey? Because we're not quite sure where we're going, but we're not going to die. We're going to survive and we're going to thrive. And so it's been a very fluid situation as we continue to walk in step with our clients, and in some cases provide them with needed support and advice to help guide their journey towards success. I would say most recently, and there's been some survey data that's come out recently, the Canadian business element is expressing positivity towards the future at levels not seen in quite a long period of time. So there's the sense of I guess positivity or forecasted expectations, and they're quite strong right now. So I think as vaccinations become more prevalent, even though right now in our current state, the pandemic seems to be getting a bit of the upper hand, but vaccinations will continue, and small business seems to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, closer now than ever before, and so they're preparing. They're preparing to take advantage of growth, acquisition opportunities that will present once a lot of the restrictions kind of fall away and we get back to, I'd like to say get back to normal. And of course the qualifier is what's normal going to be, right? But I think right now we collectively have endured a lot over the last 13 months. I think we'd all think we've only got a few more months to go, and then we can turn the page.
So, Curtis, have you seen a rise in new businesses coming in? Because when we have things like this, pandemics and world wars and these elements, innovation tends to happen. New businesses start to form, new ideas start to form. Have you seen a rise in new businesses coming to the market based on these times?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a stat that we track quite actively is what we call our new client acquisitions. It's kind of like one of those key metrics that's important for us to understand the health of our business. And quite frankly, it's one of our strategic priorities is to acquire more business. We are a business too, and we want to grow. And so, our pace of what we call NCAs or new client acquisitions has been quite healthy. Last year, obviously, it was a bit of a lull. There was a point where I think there's a lot of hesitation out in the marketplace and folks weren't creating new businesses at the pace of what we'd seen in previous years. But I would say to the tail end of last year and then cycling into this calendar year for sure. Yeah, the pace of new client acquisitions has definitely been picking up. And it's not all just restaurants. And there has been a lot of restaurant and hospitality where I think there's a natural cycle there where many will close and others will kind of open up in their place. But other service-based trades, real estate denominated businesses, retail, and then of course e-commerce and knowledge-based industry type businesses, like tremendous growth there. So and I spoke about trades there just a moment ago. Like, try to find a tradesperson in any type of discipline or denomination. Like, they're busy, right? And so I think I wouldn't call it a golden age or whatever, but it's certainly a moment where if you're a tradesperson, you probably got a book of business that extends well into this year and probably beyond that. So it's a good time to be a tradesperson as well.
So when you want to help the businesses, the small businesses, startups, they want to start and they ask for financial help, how do you evaluate them to see if they are business vital or some? So this is the question that I received sometimes, is that some business ideas is just on the paper.
Yeah.
How you can find them if they are vital?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways of doing it, and so I would express a kind of like a bit of a standard rubric, right? So to any type of financial organization, whether you're a bank or a VC or any other type of capital provider, the steps of assessment that any adjudicator would go through is, okay, let's take a look at the industry. Is it an industry that is growing, has good prospects, or is it a declining industry, right? And then you get into the actual business and the slice of that industry that it occupies, right? And then it'll go into the management of that business. So who's going to actually own this business? Who's going to run it? What are their skills? What are their expertise? What's their experience? Because there's risk there, right? Is if it's a person who's opening up a new business and they've got some denomination of skills, experience, and expertise, the chances of that business succeeding is a lot better than somebody who woke up one day and decided, I'm going to open up e-commerce business, right? So yeah, it kind of top down. It's like, what's the industry characteristics? What's the proposed business characteristics within that industry? What is, call it, management look like? And that's all kind of qualitative. Then you'd get into a lot of the quantitative aspects. So, what are the numbers look like? And this is, the Dragon's Den type of analysis. You got to know your numbers, right? Like, what are your sales, margins? What are your forecasted profit loss? That sort of thing. So a business owner needs to be able to demonstrate some thoughtfulness and reasonableness in terms of their numbers for forecasting. And so then that helps a financial provider understand what is the role that the financial provider needs to play. Like, are we being asked to provide short-term working capital to help the business kind of get out of the blocks and start selling? Or is it more equity type capital that the business needs because they need to build whatever it is their production facility is going to be, or acquire assets that allows them to produce? And so that type of capital may be more, as I said, patient equity capital, where it's injected for a period of years until the business can produce profitability. So yeah, I would say to an entrepreneur or business owner, you certainly have to do your marketplace scan to understand what place your business is going to play within the competitive marketplace. And then, know your numbers so that we can understand how best we can help you.
So Curtis, today, when I go in this pathway, we see digital transformation happening here. We see small, medium-sized businesses that are transforming to meet the digital needs. But this is also affecting, I'm sure, banks and how banks deliver on certain services in order to make sure they maintain their clientele and support them. And I know that you have a forward-thinking CEO that comes from a tech background. So what is RBC doing for its clients, and how are they advancing their business and growing with the changing times?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question there. We at RBC, we've been on a technological transformation or a digital enablement pathway for quite a period of time. And those are two different things. Technological transformation is more internally focused, right? Like, what are we doing for ourselves to upgrade systems? And it's all the kind of digital infrastructure that kind of lays in the ground that helps the bank operate, right? And I wouldn't comment a whole bunch on that. That's not my forte or whatever. But there's a lot of time, effort, money, and resources that is put to help RBC, and I'm sure many companies, technologically transform. Then there's the digital enablement part, and that's more external focusing. That's more client engagement. So how is our organization arranging ourselves to engage with our clients in a new way, in a digital way, to help enable them to, either save time, save money, save costs, reduce risks. There's an array of benefits that can come through digital enablement. So, and simply stated, payment systems is something that's incumbent upon every business, right? How do you pay and get paid, right? And we can take a look at years ago, most of it was paper-based, check-based, right? Writing and receiving checks. Well, it's very antiquated. And at some point in the future, the Canadian Payments Association, which is the regulatory body for all of Canada, has signaled that at some point paper-based payment instruments will probably fall away, and we move more towards digital settlement of money in, money out, right? And we're already there, right? And so it's a progression of continuing to work with business clients and helping them to understand how to arrange their cash flow, basically, to digitize that, because it's more efficient, there's less risk, it's more cost effective. And that's, I would say, that's the simple stuff, because there's, you don't have to over educate businesses around that, because it's all around us anyway. It's just, how do we make this work for you? So there's some education and some support and advice that we are doing on a constant basis. So that's kind of table stakes. That's the basic advice proposition that we undertake all the time. A couple of things that are really exciting and fairly new that we're grappling with to understand how to maximize value to our business clients. One is a cash flow kind of predictor engine. So, I would say visualize this. You're a small business client, and understanding your cash flow is vital, because you can't run out of cash. If you run out of cash, you got problems, right? Across a broad definition, right? So you don't want to run out of cash. So keeping a tight control and awareness on cash up, cash down, and forecasting, what are your cash flow needs going to be, is really important. Well, our analytics, our systems now allow us to be able to consult with our clients and say, look, we know that, week over week, month over month, year over year, you're using more cash, or you've accumulated more cash. Like, we can tell in terms of, clear charts and graphs, whether you're spending more, spending less, selling more, selling less, and how that is impacting your cash flow position. What's even more exciting is we can now also predict, based on, historical plus current state of being. We could see, and we could say to a client, look, our cash flow engine is telling us in about 4 weeks, you might have a liquidity crisis. You might actually run out of cash. And so let's put a plan in place to understand what other capital support, bridge financing, whatever it is you might need, so that we can avoid that event 4 weeks down the road when you're going to do payroll and all of a sudden you realize, oh shoot, I don't have enough money, right? So let's get rid of that potentially negative event through kind of predictive analysis and just ongoing communication. And it's really exciting. This is just like probably in the last quarter that we're getting familiar with this, and the conversations that we can have with our clients are so much more richer. They're more value added. Clients in trying to answer the question, what does my bank do for me? Like, what is the value of my banker to me and my business? We've got new answers to that question today that we haven't had years in the past. And that's directly the result of the investment and the attention that we've been making on technological transformation and digital enablement. The other one that we've got is, and again, it's kind of in the last couple of quarters here that we've been able to go live with this, is, and I guess I would describe it through a bit of a visual here, is think of yourself. Let's say you're a retail business, like a quick serve restaurant or something like that, any of the names out there, and you want to know, okay, over any period of time, week over week, month over month, year over year, sales up or down, I probably can figure that out on my own, right? Maybe I even know over all hours of the day, 7 days a week, when are my hot spots and when are my low spots? Maybe you know that. Maybe if your franchisor, or maybe your franchisor gives that to you. Maybe you know that. Maybe you don't. We know that. We can tell you now. But what you probably don't know is, where are your customers coming from? How far are they driving to come to your location? So say you are a franchise in the middle of a metropolitan area, where there's a population all around you. Chances are not every single one of your customers is coming from a 5-minute walk. They're coming from different areas in different directions. So where are they coming from? Well, we can tell you that. What proportion of your customers are male versus female? And what is the age distribution of your customers? How many are in the 0 to 19, 19 to 29? How many are 65 plus? All in there. Yeah, we can tell you that. We know that information.
Curtis, you can get this information because of they're using the RBC card, or you can use it because you can see you can have access to all kind of other banks as well.
So great question. So in our, call it, insight engine is a number of systems, but the biggest data set that we're employing is Royal Bank's own information. So generally speaking, about 1 in 4 transactions, 1 in 4 financial transactions that happens in this country is with a RBC branded card, whether it's a debit card or credit card or whatever the case is, but 1 in 4. And so that is an enormous data set that you analyze that, and the trends that come out of that data set are pretty indicative. Statistical anomalies with that amount of data is going to be pretty low. To your point, we don't access other banks. That's their proprietary information. What we do know is RBC has the largest data set, so that makes our data a little bit more reliable, perhaps a little bit more insightful. And I would also say this: it is anonymized. Obviously, banks and RBC being highly regulated, we're regulated under the Federal Bank Act. We absolutely have to abide by the highest level of scrutiny to the government's privacy rules and guidelines, and we can't breach that. So all the data is anonymized. We can't pinpoint a particular person or a particular business and say, well, that was you, right? So it's all anonymized. So it's okay. And we also subscribe to other. So we use like StatsCan and census data and that sort of thing, and we pull all into our insight engine and crunch that data through a bunch of algorithms that, of course, I don't understand, but we got really smart people that do. And what I do understand is the output, and the output is what's most insightful and valuable to our clients.
Curtis, I think that we need to go for another episode with you to have more information about that one. Is there any challenge you want to give to our student?
Yeah, I would say, recognizing your students, either have businesses or contemplating businesses or work in businesses right now. And I would say, think about your data. Like every business generates data. There's a data exhaust that comes out the back of all businesses and all of their activities. And is every business capturing their data? And so you have to design your systems, your input to be able to capture it. But then you also have to have a methodology for being able to manipulate that data. Shouldn't use the word manipulate, but to analyze that data in a way that you get some output that is meaningful. because meaningful output, meaningful insights allows you to, monetize that data for yourself, right? You learn something about your customers, you learn something about your marketplace, and that can help guide business owners to make key strategic decisions on where they take their business next in terms of their growth trajectory and maximizing, the market opportunity that their business has been set up for. So yeah, I guess the challenge would be just think about your data. What kind of data does your business generate, and how do you capture, analyze, and monetize that in a way that adds value to your organization?
So Curtis, this has been a really engaging conversation, and I love where we're going with this. And I'd like to build on this, as Gelareh said, into the finance side of things and how the financial side of it brings forth in this element. But I love the community support. This is another partnership in your wheelhouse on how to support you through your endeavors as you're going. Because having RBC and having a bank to support you, not only in just giving you the financing to support your business, but also giving the information to support in that shared economy to try and find ways to help you build that idea, build that concept. So great conversation. Love to have you back at another episode here coming up in the next little while.
Fantastic. Be more than happy. It's, as you can tell, we're really enthusiastic about our small business clients and entrepreneurs, and you need a lot of support to get out of the blocks, and more than that is support to help them grow, expand, acquire, and really realize the innate potential that so many of our Canadian businesses have in our marketplace.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Curtis. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel. See you on next episode.
To all entrepreneurs and managers out there, we have ambitious students here at UCW who would love to hear from you and help you with your business through our internship, our capstone program. If you think you have a wonderful story or a challenge that you want to share with our students and our audience that you think they can benefit from, we want to hear from you. We want that information. We want you to be a part of this show. We also want you to join our mentorship program. We've got a great mentorship program to help students as they move on their educational journey towards getting into a career or launching a new opportunity. So reach out to us, connect with us at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel.
You have just listened to the Innovation Fuel podcast with your hosts, Dave and Gelareh. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Google, or Spotify. Join us next week for another innovative story. Thank you for listening and have a great week.